another plenary session held by me, Speaker Rorschach. I have with me several members of the Parliament, including the administration and Prime Minister Ontario. Today's session is going to be shorter than the usual session that we have, since we have one point and one bill that we have to discuss on the floor. And we will begin with several statements from the administration and the Office of the Prime Minister. With, in this case, you're commencing and beginning with the government statements. With that being said, I would like to bring forth the Prime Minister of Enadia, Mr. Ontario, and I would like to ask them in front of the House of Commons who will begin their official statement first.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The first official statement from the administration this evening will come from the Minister, the Secretary of State for in Foreign Affairs.
Absolutely, Right Honourable Member and Secretary of State Griggs, please come forth and make your statement.
Right. So obviously there are a few things that are ongoing in the foreign affairs portfolio, with a multitude of situations arising that over the weekend that had to be dealt with in a quick and expedient manner. I will start with the first and most simple one, that being the recent Thasian attack on the Aucharitan Commonwealth, which, as per the merger agreement, is Canadian property and therefore constitutes an attack on Canadian soil. The Foreign Affairs Ministry is keeping tabs on this, making use of its very, very useful and highly valued intelligence network, and as such will keep the Office of the Prime Minister and all those who are needed in this ongoing and developing crisis in the loop. Now, as far as the second bit of business goes, we did have some interesting developments over the weekend surrounding other regions and some previous events that were brought back up. And while I am not at liberty to disclose the full details of everything that went on, know that the government has released two statements on this. Well, the government has released one statement and the Speaker has released another, and that we are dealing with it as quickly and expediently as possible, and all members of the government who need to be informed are being kept in the loop. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary of State, and, sorry, I should say Secretary of Homeland, Foreign Affairs. I messed up with all the titles there. The second statement will be coming from whom exactly, Mr. Prime Minister?
I will be making a brief statement on the elections that are ongoing.
Okay, absolutely. The floor goes to the Prime Minister of Enadia, Ontario.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to update the House, we have two ongoing elections that will be concluded this evening. One for the role of regional magistrate, in which we have one candidate who is projected to win the confidence of the region in said poll, and another contest that is ongoing for the AOR Council of Regions seat for Enadia, in which two citizens are contesting. I understand from the Electoral Commissioner that the results will either be released tonight after 11 p.m. or BST, or by tomorrow morning. This is merely technicality, because the Commissioner is an essential worker during the coronavirus crisis and is having to do extra hours as part of the food production chain at his family's farm. So I'm sure we can all understand the delay in the result. Just to update everybody about that. Apart from that, we are moving forward with the elections, and we should have our council representative in place by tomorrow at the latest, as I have just said. And I would like to congratulate the candidate that has been successful in that election in due course. But at the moment, we stand to move forward on that. Secondly, update point on the AOR. There is talk of a constitutional amendment in the AOR, which I am not personally very keen on the contents of. I'll update the House on that as we progress. But I have spoken with both potential representatives about that. And essentially, the AOR seek to amend the constitution to allow undemocratic, so non-democratic regions, to appoint rather than elect their representatives to the AOR, and that is something this administration feels very strongly about, and we will move forward as a government to oppose that legislation should it come via a regional vote, we will encourage Canadians to vote against it, because we feel that a region may plead to be considered as equals to others, but if a region is unable to elect representatives through an autocratic system of government, I don't think that's right. Second to that, I have spoken to both representatives, and I understand there is there will be an attempt, if it is moved through the AOR structures, to achieve a compromise, but I doubt that there will be a satisfactory conclusion to that move. From my personal point of view, I am in my dual role as a member of the House of Delegates. Don't ask me how that happened. And I will be voting against it personally in all circumstances, because I believe that democracy is fundamental. And an organization that is supposed to be founded on democratic principles should uphold them and not bend in the wind like a palm tree whenever a region refuses to uphold the charter that they are supposed to be in compliance with. But that really concludes that statement from me. So thank you.
Thank you. The floor will be opening for questions towards the Secretary of Foreign Affairs and the Prime Minister of Enadia. Anyone wishing to take the floor or ask a question? All right, the Honourable Member Cato, you may go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for both the Prime Minister and the Foreign Affairs Minister. Given, as the Foreign Affairs Secretary, my right honourable friend accurately mentioned, there was recently an attack against Canadian property in the form of the Arcturian Commonwealth, I would like to know, first, what the government intends to do as a result of such action, which, in my opinion, violates Canadian sovereignty. And secondly, I think the person best positioned likely to answer this will be the Interior Minister, but I would like to know why the Arcturian Commonwealth was left in a state that it was susceptible to an attack by those seeking to undermine Canadian democracy. I yield the floor, Mr. Speaker.
Point of
think I
inquiry.
can answer that.
Wait, I just have a quick point of inquiry.
Yeah. All right,
Are
you
you
may go
giving your
ahead.
opinion from the perspective as the Solicitor General or as an MP?
As a member of Parliament, I am, as I'm sure all of us are, deeply concerned about what has transpired, and I want to know what is happening, and more so and in my capacity as Solicitor General, I would like to see the government bring charges, ideally, towards the perpetrators of the illegal attack upon Canadian property.
Mind if I take that one, Chris? I think I can summarize it pretty quickly. To take both of your...
All right, so I was just about to give you the floor, Prime Minister. You can go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. I do apologize. To take both of your questions at point, I thank the member for the question, the honourable member. It is clear to the government that the situation regarding the security of the Arcturian Commonwealth as Canadian property had not been a point of contention to previous debate. As it's merely an administrative fault that the means was left available for the stations to exploit that situation. It is the view of myself and the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Minister for the Interior that we have strengthened security, and we've put in place a defender system to ensure that that historical archive that has become the Commonwealth and the nations that are currently within it, who are by extension resident in Enadia, should they move to Enadia, are under our protection, essentially. If necessary, we will password it and lock it, but at this point, I don't really want to go down that route. In regard to charging of individuals, the government is in discussions. I will not comment on that legal matter. That is a matter that will be carried out through the correct channel, through the Ministry of Justice, the head of the Crown Prosecution Service, and progress via the regional magistrate. As you can understand, I cannot comment on an ongoing legal matter. Should we wish to do it further, the government is considering a request of a lobby, though, against that citizen who might have been complicit, but I will not comment or name the individual in the House. Thank you.
All right. If I may follow up, Mr. Speaker.
Absolutely. So the floor will be going once again to Mr. Cato. You may go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, with the Prime Minister stating that the matter will eventually be devolved to the Crown Prosecution Service, I get that he does not wish to comment, but am I correct in believing that all members of the Prosecution Service will be fully informed as to what I'm trying to think of a correct term here, the chain of events, if we do get to that point, will be, so that they can all act in the most professional and unbiased manner to ensure that justice is fair for all sides?
Daniel, I can take this one.
I was just going to say, I simply refer you to the procedural guidelines as passed in the legislation of last week. So absolutely, that was literally the answer.
Yeah. To further to further explain that, the legal department will be briefed if it does reach the point of a lawsuit. But again, Daniel pretty much stole my thunder. So
Thank
Yeah,
you
yeah.
both.
Honorable members, are you all done in this case?
We got another one.
Okay, all right. So before we proceed any further, I see that Mr. Ravenwood at the same time has a question in this case here. At the same time, the Office of Speaker would like to bring in attention to the members of the House that the attack has been carried also by a citizen of both regions in this case here, Mr. Brother, that contains and has a citizenship in Enadia and Tesh at the same time. With that being
Hence
said,
why I didn't comment on it.
Absolutely. So the floor will be moving to Honorable Member Old Ravenwood. Sir, whenever you're ready.
All right. Thank you, Speaker. I would like to commend the government for their swift actions towards this, but I'm a bit confused about what exactly the attack on the Autorian Commonwealth entailed and what the perpetrator did. So if someone could please clarify that.
I'm happy to do so.
Here.
All right, the floor will be moving to the Prime Minister of Enadia. Mr. Ontario, whenever you're ready, you can answer to the Honourable Member Old Ravenwood. Your response will be within 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Essentially, I thank the honourable member for his question, but essentially it was essentially a standard raid. So when they come in, and what happens is they take control of the world delegacy by using WA nations to take control of the delegacy. Because the founder had CTE, ceased to exist, essentially they were elected, and in that event, the WA delegate gets executive, which means you can change the world factbook entry and edit the dispatches that are pinned to said region. So what they essentially did was they went in and destroyed the historical archive. Luckily for us, most of the founder account was refounded within 10 minutes of the government being made aware. We had gone in and we restored things, and we updated the factbook entry directing all nations resident within the Commonwealth to Enadia directly, and it will now be preserved as a historical archive and tribute to the past to show the progress of the region. But in future reference, we have put in place a defender. The Minister of Justice has been handling that, and that defender will act in the event of any future incursions and has the rightful and lawfully assigned powers to do so. But essentially, yes, it's just a matter of taking control of the WA delegacy and then changing the world factbook entry to say this region was raided by. The region that claimed responsibility was Thessia, but their government rejected that it was a direct initiative and saying that it's a citizens' initiative, and that is why we're looking into this matter in a more detailed way. So that's really all I can tell you at this moment.
Yeah, I can actually further comment.
Okay, so in this situation here, 2 minutes have expanded. In this case, if there's anything else that you'd like to add, in this case here, I'll be giving you 1 minute for additional comments, and then we'll be moving to the next subject, which would be, unless we have any other statements from the honourable members of Parliament, we'll be moving to national celebrations and the bill introduced by the Cabinet. Okay?
Lincoln will present that.
With that being said, absolutely, the floor will be moving for 1 minute of additional comments to the honourable member and Secretary of State Exodius.
Right. To further expand on what was said surrounding the Dacian government's response to this, our extremely robust and well-informed intelligence agency has, in fact, told us that the most Thasians were in fact not actually aware of this, and it was only a very small select group of individuals who did so engage in this raiding practice, which means that it becomes a bit of a delicate matter because we would have to prosecute most likely the individuals rather than the entire government as a whole, because most were not even aware of this happening.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Without being said, before we proceed any further, Mr. Cheshire, would you like to answer or make a statement? What would you like to do exactly?
I would just like to make a quick statement to benefit the record and to also inform the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary of something that I have recently learned pertaining to this matter.
Absolutely. The floor will be moving to you then, and you will have approximately 2 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have, through my own private contacts, been made aware that in the planning of some sort of raid, there was a supposed link to a minister of the Thracian government who was reportedly prepared to authorise World Assembly waivers for nations participating in such a raid, including a member including one of the perpetrators being mentioned regarding a World Assembly membership waiver. So I thought it would be best to enter this knowledge into the record and also to benefit the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary with this information, which I think is crucial to get into the bottom of the crisis and to the extent of which any foreign government might either be complicit or have sponsored such action.
Here, here.
Thank you.
Here.
And here indeed. Okay. With that being said, I wish so much I could make some comments on this statement here, but as my role as a speaker, I'm going to have to avoid that. With that being said, if there is no other statements, I would like to move a motion to the House of Commons so we can start a debate in regards to the National Celebration Bill introduced by the government.
Second.
Absolutely. With that being said, Mr. Lincoln, I was led to know that you will be introducing this bill. Are you ready?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I am indeed.
Alrighty, the bill will be and has already moved and will be posted for some reason, which is not okay. Will be posted under the Parliament chat. With that being said, Mr. Lincoln and Secretary of Homeland Affairs, the floor will be yours.
Right, so thank you, Mr. Speaker. So this is the National Celebrations Bill, and it's going to enshrine 2 holidays into Enadia. So that covers in Article 1 and 2. On the 4th day of every July, we'll celebrate a Foundation Day, which will mark the official date of the foundation of the Union. And this will come with a official celebration organised by the government. And the same will go for Gay Enadia Day, which will be on the 9th day of every June, and will mark the official date with another celebration involved with the community and organised by the government. There's also a mechanism in Article 3 in which citizens can launch a petition to ask for a particular holiday that they might have in mind. Now, the government does have the right to reject that petition. However, that mechanism is there if they want to pursue that. So that is, in short, what the National Celebrations Bill is. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thank you. That was the quickest presentation of a bill. I
Yeah.
liked it. With that being said, any questions on the floor before we move this bill on a vote? And no will be again. Okay, thank you.
Nope.
With that being said, absolutely, thank you, honourable members. With that being said, the bill will be moving officially on to the floor right now for a vote. You may cast your votes below for the National Celebration Bill, and you may go ahead.
I'm going to stay for procedure. I beg to move.
Yeah.
Here, here.
Here, here.
Do I hear a second?
Seconded.
Motion rejected.
Wow.
Big oof.
Second to that. All right, 4 votes so far. Now would call forward the rest of the House members to actually vote, so we can, call them a day.
Get to take my fun questions after this. Come on, hurry up.
I would suggest that comments of that nature can be avoided. You can cast your vote.
Kriegs, it is a whip bill.
Wait, it is.
Yeah, otherwise I wouldn't vote aye.
And you can petition that to come to the
Have you
holiday,
not
which is so
seen
weird.
Ed vote aye?
Point of
He would
order,
not.
please. Point of
Sorry.
order. Please go ahead and cast your votes, so we can move to the next point.
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
What is it?
Does the House have any other planned business after this bill?
Yes.
Yes. we have.
Thank you.
It's going to be the Q&A to the Prime Minister.
Keith, could you vote so we got a quorum?
Yeah, okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 votes.
Quorum carries.
Or indeed, yeah. So the bill has already passed in this case here. Okay, great. With that being said, the bill is now in effect. I will have to. Okay, Mr. Cato, Honourable Member Cato, what is
Thank
it?
you. Thank
this
you,
question
Mr.
to the Prime
Speaker.
Minister now?
I would just like to quickly inform the House that regarding my prior statement, I have now submitted to the Foreign Secretary evidence regarding my statements, so now the government is in possession of those facts.
Yeah,
Would you
I
like to
have
do
I
it
have
publicly
received
under the
said
Parliament?
evidences.
Okay, I understand. All right. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Cato, Honourable Member Cato. Any other queries about the bill or any other questions about the statements, or should we move to a QA?
Prime Minister's questions.
I beg to move.
You beg to move, okay? So we hear loud and clear you're begging in this case here, and the House will be moving to the Q&A session. With that being said, honourable members of the House, you can go ahead. Who would like to make the first question?
Better have some questions for me, guys.
I see that. I'm very excited about the involvement of everybody here. Bredonia has been missing there. Oh, Cato, absolutely, my man. Go ahead.
What a surprise!
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask of my right honourable friend, the democratically elected Prime Minister Ontario, regarding his statement concerning the AOR considering a sort of democratic bypass for authoritarian states. I would like to ask if my right honourable friend agrees with me that as a matter of principle, if such a motion is passed, the Canadian government should take a principled stance against the Assembly of Regions' apparent endorsement of authoritarianism, and as such, I would like to also ask my right honourable friend that if such a motion does pass, he would support me in a bill to give the people of Enadia a referendum regarding our citizenship of the Assembly of Regions. I yield the floor.
About 3 questions.
Right, that was actually a very bold claim and a lot of bold questioning in this case. Here, Prime Minister, do you feel brave that you can actually take over that question? Because
This
my
is the
God,
kind of question the Prime Minister likes.
it's the kind of question that the Prime Minister usually says, "I'll pass."
No, I will answer the honourable member's question.
All right, you may go ahead.
Question, should
Prime
I
Minister.
say, because there's more than one. Thank
Yeah,
you,
because
Mr.
it was
Speaker.
kind of like he raised the hand only once, but then he just started storming the House of Commons with questions after questions over questions.
Right, well,
Mr. Prime Minister, you can go ahead.
I thank the honourable member for his enthusiasm on this issue. It's an issue that I am myself passionate about, despite the dullness of the AOR. I absolutely do agree that the AOR, should they adopt an authoritarian endorsement measure, should absolutely, as per our manifesto, be subject to the review of the citizens of Enadia. As personally, I do not see myself in any capacity as an elected representative being able to stand up here accountable to the public and say, oh, yes, I support this organization, yet they have essentially bypassed your democratic rights and say, because if I decided tomorrow that I wanted to appoint our representatives to the AOR instead of electing them, I could do so. This is the nature of this proposed charter change. And I think that's wrong. So I will consider the matter of a referendum. I will, should the eventuality in need of such legislation come forth, in line with our firm commitment to review and continuously monitor our relationship with the AOR so that it best serves Canadians. But no, I will not stand in support of any authoritarian measure that I see to undermine democracy, as that is, as you have correctly pointed out, a fundamental principle that we all share, and it is part of our Canadian mission. Is of course, democracy is at the core and it's fundamental to everything we do. So I will consider it, and on the basis to round out the question, it will be something that I will fight against personally in the AOR to ensure that such a measure hopefully does not even materialize. But some members, I'm sure, are aware, members of this House are aware that there is quite a force behind this measure. But I hope that answers the member's question.
It does indeed. Thank you, Prime
Mr.
Minister.
Mr. Prime Minister, you forgot the most important question, and we definitely do not want the honourable member Cato to go to sleep without you answering his last question. Whether you are going to support him in a referendum, a region-wide referendum, for our exodus from AOR, if I heard the question correctly.
I do believe I answered the question, but I will answer it again. In the event that a referendum is seen as necessary, the government will consider bringing forward legislation at said time. I will not commit to a referendum at present until I am in possession of all the facts and such measures have taken place. At the minute, the government is committed to reviewing our relationship with the AOR progressively moving forward. But as I have said before, and I will reiterate now, the government is not opposed to a referendum on membership should the citizens of Enadia feel that it is in the best interest, and the government or the government feels that it is in the interest of our citizens to defend our democratic rights and freedom. That is the answer to that question.
All right, 3 questions down. Any other questions from the honourable members of the House?
You can ask me anything.
Absolutely.
Take your opportunity.
I mean, not everything, but...
Yeah, I have
Alright.
a petition for the Prime Minister.
This is about the new legislation that is just coming forth. I will defer that till cabinet.
Oh, damn. All right.
Language, please. Maintain parliamentary language. Any other questions? All right. Without any other questions, I will be raising a motion to end today's session.
Oh, hang on. There is one thing I forgot.
Yeah, go ahead.
The statement on the parliamentary by-election that will take place next week. There will be a parliamentary by-election to fill the previous seat of the no longer member of Enadia or member of this honourable House, Galea's seat in the House of Commons following the custody dispute, as the Foreign Secretary alluded to earlier. That election will take place on scheduling between the government and the Electoral Commission. So please, citizens, I advise you to keep an eye out. And if you're interested in running as an independent or a reformist candidate, please do let me know, and the Electoral Commission know. I will take any questions on that briefly if anybody has any on the parliamentary election, by-election.
All right, you may raise your hands or forever silence.
Oh, what a surprise.
Well, I mean, I'm happy that the honourable member Cato is exercising the parliamentary duty and democratic rights and principles.
Of
Mr.
course,
Cato,
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you,
the
Mr.
floor is
Speaker.
yours, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am glad that you support my wish to fully represent my constituents by making sure that I question this government pertaining to all matters that I feel it should be questioned on.
Yeah, that's why you got voted in.
With regards to the Prime Minister asking for questions on the by-election, I would like to ask the Prime Minister, given the fact that there is only one seat up for election, am I correct in assuming that the Electoral Commission shall conduct the election through the first past the post voting method, as opposed to using the single transferable vote method, as there is only one seat up for grabs?
The member would be correct in his assumption. At present, I am in discussions with the Commissioner. The other suggested system was AV, but we're not sure how that would be implemented. So at the moment, we are moving forward with either additional vote or first past the post. But first past the post, if depending on the number of candidates, looks like the likely option, which I'm sure the member will understand.
I do indeed. Thank you, Prime Minister.
Indeed, thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Honourable Member Cato. With that being said, today's session has officially been concluded, unless there is any other matter or point of interest over here. Does anyone else have anything to add, ask? And no is again sufficient. Nope. All right, I'm going to make it basically a tradition in my parliament that people will be saying actually no when they're asked a question, or yes if they want to support it. With that being said, thank you so much for your attendance today.